Hi, everybody. It's Donna Reed with Up With People 1976. And if you're watching this today, please note that those are beautiful flowers behind me in the picture that are Picacho peas, somewhere in between Tucson and Phoenix. And my guest today is David Farrell. And I know nothing about him. And I don't think you've heard me say that to anybody, about anybody, because usually I know something, but literally I know nothing. So, David, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Can I ask where you live, where you're at right now?
So I'm in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Cleveland, you don't sound at all like you're from Tennessee.
I have a riding joke with people when they ask me where I'm from. I tell them Polk County, and it takes them a minute to say, okay, he's not from Polk County.
Yeah. No, exactly. So how long ago did you travel in Up With People?
So I traveled Casby 1991.
91. Okay.
And had a very nice experience.
And where were you living at the time? Like, I want to find out where your accent's from, bottom line.
I'm from Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, so were you living in the States at that point, or how'd you hear about Up With People?
So I went to school in Philadelphia. I went to Temple University.
Okay.
And when I was at Temple, in fact, in my very last year at Temple, I had a friend who wanted to come out and see an Up With People show in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is like 45 minutes from the campus. And so they asked me to come out and stuff like that with them. And I went, and they said afterwards, hey, come, let's go down and meet some of the cast members. And so I went down, and at that point in time, they said to me, hey, we would love it if it is you come and join Up With People. And I called my parents and I said to them, hey, I'm going not finish school. I'm going to go and
I bet they were thrilled.
Yeah, and my parents said that's not going to happen. You're going to finish school. If you finish school, you can revisit this, but that's not going to happen. So that was my intro to Up With People.
Right. What show did you see? What were some of those? Because everybody had names of their shows. We didn't so much in the 70s when I traveled, but what was
I can't remember the name. This is 1988, March of 1988. So I can't remember the name of the show. But there was a young lady, I can't even remember her name, but she was the keyboardist. And we started to chat because I play keys, and we started to chat. And so, and she's the one who said, hey, could you just see if it is you would be interested in. We actually remained pen pals for a little while. And that's how I got, interested in making application for the program.
You just said pen pals, and I have to tell you, last year I met my pen pal from India that I wrote to 50 years ago. The young people, they don't even know what a pen pal is, because
think of a pen pal as an email with a stamp on it.
You pick up a pen, you write something, right? That's just so funny that you said that. Yeah, it's amazing the words that we use that are part of the vernacular at certain times. So were you playing music at college, or was it just something that was fun?
I actually went to college for actuarial science, because I was one of
what kind of science?
Actuarial. So so I literally when I was graduating high school, looked in the American Library at what job pays the most. And they said actuarial science. I said, that's why I want to go and study. So I had no idea what to do, but I applied and got in to start studying actuarial science. And then I found out it was about 10 years of studying. I said, that's never, ever going to happen. So middle major in October of of 1987, I met with my advisor and said, this is not going to happen. And she said, oh, you're doing so well, you're getting A's. And so I said, that's never going to happen. I'm not going to spend 10 years taking exams and stuff like that. But, you know, even when you graduate with your bachelor's, in the student handbook, it says your salary is undetermined. It was that high of a paying job.
Wow. Okay, so I don't even know what you would do. So what is that type of, I dropped science in 10th grade, just so you know. Science.
Yeah, so actuarial science is the guys who predict on the your mortality rates, your mortality rates for insurance companies. They set the bank rates. They'll tell a bank, well, you don't take this kind of risk on these kinds of people. And so
what my cousin does. My cousin Michael, who's my age, does this. And I swear to God, he sits alone, like in this room looking at, we are so different. I'm like, Mike, okay, it took me a minute to get what you were saying. But.
So no, I couldn't do that for 10 years and then do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So what did you switch to?
I switched to economics.
Okay.
I graduated in 3 years, summa cum laude from Temple with, you know, so since I'd already accomplished a lot of my business credits, it was either economics or finance. Otherwise, I would have had to spend more time. And so doing that.
Chose degrees the way I chose college. When I was choosing college, because I had done up with people, I was like, I'm going to the University of Arizona. I know a lot of people there. It had nothing to do with luck.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to major in. So weird.
Yeah, I applied to 3 universities, got through to all of them. And I went to Temple because my brother was in New York. And therefore, that was a 2-hour commute if I needed to see him also. And I had a friend, I had 3 other friends who were going to Temple from Trinidad, including my pastor's daughter. So I knew that I had some instant connections.
Yeah.
You know, even though the other schools were Ivy League schools.
So if you graduated summa cum laude, did that also mean that you got scholarships to school?
No. So I went to school at a time where an international student couldn't get a full ride. So you could have, after my first semester, I started in January, and when I finished my first semester in May, I was told that I can apply for an international scholarship, and they paid half of my tuition. They could not pay my entire tuition.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to show you what I don't know about global economics. So from a cost of living in Trinidad Tobago compared to coming to Temple University, what was that like for you? Was that like, I don't know the rate of exchange or anything?
All right. So when I started school, $1 US was equivalent to 2.42 Trinidad and Tobago dollars.
Okay.
When in my very last year, it changed to $1 US equivalent to 3.6. And I remember my parents saying to me, because, you know, my parents financed everything that my scholarship didn't pay for.
Wow.
And I had one more semester, and my parents said, we just don't know how you're going to do it. And I remember saying to them, I already have my ticket to go back. And if I have to sleep on the corner, I'm going to sleep on the corner. But there's no way that I have one semester to go.
That you're not going to do it.
And I'm not going to do it.
Good for you. That's fascinating. All right. So now we go back up with people. And so now you've graduated. Did you just like right away decide, okay, now I'm going to do this thing? Had you stayed in touch?
I went back to Trinidad,
okay,
you know, because I now I wanted to make some money. I
Huh.
was not, yeah, you know that thing that you do
Thing.
after
Yeah.
you get a degree?
Oh,
So
funny.
I wanted to make some money, and so it's 1989. I reached back to Trinidad end of December 1988. Right. Um, I told my parents I'm not going to do anything for January. I'm not even going to look for a job in January. You know, I'm just going to just get myself back to zero.
Yeah.
Right. And in February, I went and applied. No, I got a call from a friend who said, "Hey, we heard that you're back. Would you mind coming to interview?"
Oh,
And so I went to interview, and that was with Nationwide Insurance Company. They were looking for a reinsurance manager in Trinidad.
okay.
And um and you know, he knew my background, that I had started studying actuarial science and stuff like that, and I was good with numbers. So you know, they put me in that department. I I told them that I had to fly back up in May for my actual walk down the aisle graduation ceremony, which, you know, in retrospect, that was just a waste of time.
I know,
You
but
know?
at the time, it's like a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal at the time. At least I thought so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I worked with them, and in my first year, I'd gotten back about $32 million for this company. And I went to my
Wow.
boss and I said, "Hey, I think I deserve a raise," you know, because as far as I was concerned, I was you know, this hotshot out of university. I got back $32 million for you, so therefore I'm the bum diggly bum, right? You know, so I need to get some kind of money.
It's
So
funny.
yeah, so my boss at that time, he said to me, you know, it doesn't work like that. You know, in an insurance company, you have the shareholders, and the policy shareholders. Um, those two groups make decisions for insurance company as to what they do with their finances. And your job has a salary, and that is a salary that was approved by the board, and stuff like that. He gave me this long speech, and so I said, "Oh, okay, no problem. I understand." And a month later, I walked out. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
So I said I didn't know what I was going to do, but I walked out. That was now, so that's 89, 1990 now.
Okay.
I went to work for Nissan Trinidad and Tobago Limited, and I got a job as a junior marketing executive, paid me literally about 3 times what I was making,
Wow.
you know? And right after I started working there, my pen pal said to me, "Hey, um, don't you want to travel with Upward People again?" As you know, I'm now starting making the kind of money I want to make, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you know, I don't think so," you know, stuff like that. And then early 1991, she said to me, "Why don't you just apply? You know, we're not even sure if you'll get in, but you know, why don't you just apply?"
Yeah.
You know, so silly me go to my parents, and I said to them, you know, "You remember that thing up with people that you all told me I couldn't go to? Well, you know, they are getting ready for their 1991 cast members, and you know, I actually think it would be a good idea, you know." And they said, "Well, what about your job?" And I said, "Well, I'll go and speak to my boss tomorrow." So I went to my boss and I said, "You know, I have this opportunity. to go and travel around the world and play music for a year and stuff like that. And it's a defined period of time that at the end of it, I would come back to Trinidad and can you freeze my job? You know? So I was a decent enough worker that they said, well, you know, Dave, here one. We think this is an awesome opportunity for you, and we think you should take it. You know, we can't make any promises, but certainly if there's any vacancy when you come back, you know, you will be at the top of our list, you know. So my job was there. My dad worked in the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Youth Affairs. And so I wrote to the minister, which is like the senator.
Yeah. Yep.
And I asked, hey, can I get some assistance? You know, I quote and unquote will be represented Trinidad and Tobago, and there haven't been anybody from Trinidad and Tobago. I gave a whole speech about it. And they said to me, you know, no, we see this as personal development as compared to some kind of government benefit, you know, that when they could not work it out that when I come back to Trinidad, I would have to work with their arts department for 3 years or stuff like that. There was no way to genuinely indicate that there will be that level of growth and stuff like that, you know. So I did some calculations, and I think it was working out to be about 6,000-7,000 US between tuition, airfare, and stuff like that. And so I banned my belly. I had some savings, and I said, you know, I'll go and buy my ticket, and when I reach up to the States, we'll figure it out from there. You know?
That's awesome. I mean, I wondered if anybody else from Trinidad Tobago had traveled, you know?
No, not before me, as far as I think there were some people from Venezuela, which is close.
There have been, because there were Venezuelans.
So I came up and I flew into Phoenix instead of Tucson, right? Because in my mind, when the plane said that it was going to Phoenix, Arizona,
that's all you needed.
Had to be close enough by.
Because you're from a tiny little place.
Yes. And remember, in those days, we didn't have the internet. You know?
That's true.
I can laugh at it now, but you know, I came up with.
What'd you do? So you got
I came up with 200 US, right? And here I am in Phoenix Airport. Just flew up on American, and I go around all the terminals looking for Upward people. Nobody from Upward people there, you know. And I flew in Saturday or Sunday, either Saturday or Sunday. But you know, I'm there trying to call Upward people, and obviously nobody's answering, you know, because it's a weekend. So I said to myself, what am I going to do? So I go outside and I'm asking the taxi drivers how much it will cost to go to Tucson from Phoenix, you know? And everybody's looking at me as if you're crazy, you know? So I said, you know, I'm prepared to pay, you know, and everybody looked at me as though I was crazy. And then one taxi driver said, hey, he has to go to a family member or something like that in Tucson. He doesn't mind taking me. I said, if you could take me to the Tucson airport, I would actually, you know, I'm hoping that there would be somebody at the Tucson airport from Upward people, because they knew when I was coming in. And And then we had to negotiate the price because this
only had
is
$200.
I only had $200, you know. Anyway, you know, we worked out that it will be $150. I said, no problem, I'll take care of it, you know, because I'm figuring in my mind that I'm going to be a host family that's supposed to take care of breakfast and dinner.
Yep.
And Upward People takes care of lunch.
Yep.
So I should be okay for a couple days. And this $50 is just to hang on to.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to buy anything or anything like that, you know. So so I reach up to Tucson Airport, and literally when I arrived, they were closing up. And I said, hey, I came into Phoenix, you know, and I took a taxi across, and they said, we'll get you to your host family. So they took me over to my host family, and it was a guy who was quadriplegic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was real culture shock for me, you know, and he was driving, you know, so that was
yeah. So we finally get you there, and I just have to make sure we get to some of the other questions. So this is the story that Donaldo was said, you got to hear about his arrival, his story, you know, getting here. All right, so when you traveled, where did you guys go? Where'd your cast go?
So my cast went, well, all over the US, and then we flew over into Belgium. Okay. From Belgium, we went to the Netherlands, we went to Poland, we went to Germany. I know I'm missing some place or so.
Okay, but so you traveled Europe.
Yeah.
And tell me, one of the questions that I like to ask people is, did you eat anything for the first time that you were like, oh, this is the best thing ever? Or did you eat anything where you were like, I will never eat that again?
Yes, in Poland.
Okay, what did you have? What did you have in Poland?
Raw horse meat with onions.
Raw?
And but you know that when I think they just kind of seared it, you know, just so that
a tiny little bit. Okay.
Yeah, but I call it raw horse meat because it was raw horse meat to me.
Did you know it was? Did you know what you were eating? Because sometimes people have said
they told me, and it was part of their national dish. But I remembered during training that they said, do not refuse delicacies, right?
Yeah.
And but they said what you do is you cover your nose, because your taste is part of your
your smell.
You know, yeah. You know, so I remember holding my breath and eating that as quickly as possible and drinking so much water that it will wash it down and scrubbing my teeth right after.
Too funny. Okay, what about did you taste anything for the first time that you really, really liked? What do you think?
No, I mean, I remember the bread in Belgium. That was it was the best.
The chocolate, come on, right?
The chocolate was okay, but their pastry was off the chain in Belgium.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. All right, and then songs in a show. What songs were in your show that, like, do you ever have songs just pop into your head that you hum?
Right. So I sang "What Color Is God's Skin." One of my good friends, she was from Bermuda. She sang "Give Me My Flowers Before I Die."
Oh, I remember that in the show.
Yeah, and then it had the rock song that
like in a medley.
Jingle Bell Rock. It oh gosh, it's not Jingle Bell Rock.
Is it Rock Around the Clock?
Rock, yeah.
Okay.
You know, and then you had.
Okay, wait, go back. So when you were singing God's Skin, did you have to learn it in several languages over there?
I had to learn it in Polish.
Do you remember it?
I remember very few things. Visiske, I remember that word. I don't know why that, because it took me a long time. We had a guy from Poland, and he drilled me in Polish. And I remember the first night I sang it in Poland. Two ladies came. One took off her jewelry and put it on me, you know.
Sweet.
And the Polish, what you call it, the Polish prime minister,
Okay.
his chief consultant was from Trinidad.
Oh, that's
Erica
cool.
Long.
Yeah.
And we actually became very good friends, you know.
That's awesome. You know, it's fascinating for me. So I was part of the bicentennial, which meant, you know, they performed, a group of 150 would break into 3 groups of 50. They did all these little towns in Ohio. So not in Ohio, in the whole United States, but in Ohio too. And then, so when we traveled the following year, out of maybe 125 or 130 cast members, we only had about 9 or 10 non-Americans.
Oh, wow.
And what that meant was, in certain places, our Black Americans, we make up another country for them. So,
right.
So we would, you know, the guy from Denver, we'd have him raise his hand that he was from Bermuda or wherever or something, just so we looked a little more international. When he spoke, you knew he wasn't from. But we there, especially if our small non-American group happened to be on PR, you know, we might only have 5 non-Americans in a show, and so it was a very different experience. But okay, I have less than 10 minutes. Tell me how you wound up in Tennessee.
So, you know, so I went, after the show, I went back to Trinidad and got married and all those things. And I got a call 97 from a church in Washington State. And they said, hey, we have been speaking to a pastor from Trinidad, and they said you would be our best music minister we would ever have. Would you come up? And I thought it was a joke. So I said to the guy, to the pastor, if you put me on a first class ticket and pay me 5,000 US for the week, I will fly up. And 2 days later, his assistant called and said, here's your ticket. And when you arrive, you'll get your $1,000.
Oh my goodness.
And this was in 97, because I thought it was a joke. I just, you know, thought somebody was pulling a prank.
Yeah.
So I flew up there. I worked with them for, actually, 1 week became a month, 1 month became 2 months, and it ended up being 2 years. From there, I went to Michigan, and I was the production manager for a substance abuse school assembly touring group. I did that. And then I was playing in Michigan, and a gospel singer came to church, and in the middle of a sermon, she just said, I feel I need to be more connected to you. 4 months later, she flew me into Tennessee and said she would like me to take over her ministry and develop her. So,
fantastic story. From actuary to economics to gospel music, you know, or whatever. That's, you know, I just, there's a 26-year-old that I've been mentoring in real estate. And he said to me one day, he goes, I can't imagine being 64. And I said, no, you can't. He said, you can have all the plans in the world. You can have goals. You can have a path. And then life goes,
right.
And,
yeah.
And you may or may not wind up in well, if you have a belief, and you clearly do if you're in gospel music, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, right? You wind up in this place. And some people seem to know that when they're 16. and others of us, it's a journey, right? To get
long journey. Yes.
Yeah, to get to her, but that's fascinating. All right, last question. The new Up With People, and this is probably why Walter wants you to talk to Seema. It's called Voices by Up With People, and they're launching this fall. They're starting in, you know, Latin America, Mexico, Colombia, Guatemala. I don't know if you've seen all the tour places they're going.
No. When I was speaking to Walter, he told me.
Okay. So you're now, you now are going to talk to other people, young people that you know in Tennessee, and they're 18 to 25 years old, and they have opportunities to do a bunch of things because way more options than when I traveled in the 70s. So what would you tell a young person who was looking for a gap year or wanted to see the world or wanted to learn? What would you tell them in, 2 minutes or less about why Up With People could be great for them?
So, I need to preface this by, I think one of the reasons that I was speaking to Walter is because I felt as though the philosophy had changed from when I traveled.
Okay.
So when I traveled, what got me really interested was the cross-cultural learning experience. Right? I was from, where I live now in Cleveland, Tennessee, sadly, but about 80% of the people who live here never leave the state.
Right.
Yeah. So I tell people that it's an opportunity to tour the world that you aren't paying the dime for touring. But more importantly, it's understanding cross-culturally what is happening in other areas. When something happens in Europe or in Asia or whatever, I'm on Facebook talking to my friends and finding out, are they okay?
How are you?
Yeah. Even if they are in the States and, a hurricane hits them or stuff like that, we are communicating to find out. And that happened because of my Up With People experience. And being that I'm also international, it's even more so, besides that, the relationships I developed when I was with Up With People, I still share them today. I mean, you said Donalda called you on me, and we still keep in touch, and those relationships have lasted a lifetime, literally. So, because you are in a bus with 50 other people, 100 other people for at least 6 weeks. I think now it's 3 weeks, but hey, there are things that you learn about people that you have a relationship with.
So I'm going to suggest something to you. I want you, if you can, if you haven't already, to listen to the interview that I did with Phil and Seema. It's on the Up With People Facebook page. Because we did it in a question and answer format. And there are a whole lot of alumni that are trying to figure out what the new program looks like. They're figuring it out as they go. However, the baseline is it's still service and leadership and cross-cultural and making a change in the world. And I think that's what we all set out to do. And one of the other alumni I interviewed a long time ago on here, and I've heard it since, is when the places become the faces. So suddenly you hear about a hurricane or what's happening, you're like, oh my gosh, I know somebody there, or I've been there, or whatever. And Seema made the comment to me. She goes, yes, Donna, when I interviewed her, she goes, colleges graduate 5,000 or 10,000 a year in classes, but they don't stay in touch the way Up With People alumni do with each other. So anyway, all right, that being said, I got less than 2 minutes, so I have to wrap this up. Thank you for taking the time. And when I when I make this live, I have another one before you. And then when I make it live, I'll make sure that I message you on Facebook so that you know. It's been a pleasure chatting. I love hearing your story and that Tennessee accent.
Yeah, you like my Tennessee accent, right?
I'm like, this is not where I thought you were going to say you lived, you know. So thank you. Appreciate it. And I may hit you up and talk to you a little bit more about music. I sing at my church. I'm going over there at 3:00. We're doing an animal ministry thing, and I'm leading the song. So anyway, thanks for fitting it in. A pleasure to meet you, David, and to know your real name instead of that Facebook AOL thing you got going on.
All right, have a great. Okay, then.
Oh, I got to stop recording. See, I messed it up.